If you're hearing this right now, understand something. It isn't luck. You're here because you've stepped into a zone where pressure, power, and danger collide. And only a few can handle that. SWAT generals don't call ordinary people into private rooms, and defense ministers don't whisper about nuclear keys. Unless they sense someone capable of carrying weight, others would break under. But before we go deeper into why the powerful choose people like you, why they test you, corner you, and sometimes try to turn you into their scapegoat, pause this video, hit the like button, subscribe so we can push this channel past 50,000, and drop the number 11 in the comments. That simple move tells me you're not just watching, you're ready. Ready to understand how power really works. Ready to see why leaders offload blame onto those they think won't fight back. And ready to hear how the so-called nuclear key isn't about weapons. It's about control, pressure, and the silent war that decides who gets crushed and who survives it. The hallway fell silent the moment the SWAT general stepped in, his boots clicking like a warning. He didn't bark orders today. He whispered your name, almost afraid of being overheard by the walls. Power usually arrives with noise and flashing lights, but the strongest kind enters like a shadow, slow, quiet, deliberate. You could feel his stare pressing on your spine, as if he carried a truth too heavy for his own shoulders. His voice cracked when he said he needed your advice of all people. It felt unreal, almost laughable, that a man who commanded armored trucks and storm teams would come seeking answers from someone with no medals, no office, no political shield. Yet there he was, eyes dimmed by exhaustion, hiding fear beneath his uniform. That's when it hit you. Power doesn't always look like dominance. Sometimes it looks like desperation. And in that moment, a strange fire lit inside you. If someone with the authority to break doors and silence nations needed something from you, then maybe your value wasn't as small as the world made you believe. Sometimes life bends in unexpected ways. Sometimes it's the ordinary person who carries the piece of truth the powerful are terrified to confront. The defense minister arrived minutes later, brushing past guards like a man late for his own confession. He demanded a private room, not with the general, not with his advisors, but with you. His voice carried urgency, the kind that knows any wrong word can collapse governments. The door slammed behind him, leaving you both trapped in a silence thick enough to choke on. When he finally spoke, his tone trembled under the weight of secrets, locked away for years. He didn't ask politely, he begged. He wanted your perspective on something he called the nuclear key. Not a button, not a weapon, just a symbol of absolute authority that only a handful of people had ever heard of. He stared at you like he was seeing the last person who could save him from drowning in his own power. And that's when you noticed the truth. Powerful people are strong in public, but fragile in private. They hide behind flags, badges, and speeches. But behind closed doors, they fear everything: exposure, failure, blame. And somehow, at this moment, you became the mirror they avoided for years. He explained the nuclear key like it was a ghost that wandered from hand to hand, choosing its next keeper. It didn't open doors. It opened consequences. Whoever held it also held the weight of accountability, a burden no one truly wanted. The irony burned like fire. The ultimate power was also the ultimate trap. You saw the tremor in the minister's hands as he placed a metal case on the table. Inside wasn't a weapon, but a symbol, a carved emblem shaped like a lion biting its own tail. It was beautiful, terrifying, and unsettling all at once. People thought power was about control, but the ones closest to it knew it was really about survival. And there it was, the reason they needed you. They weren't looking for guidance. They were looking for a shield, someone expendable, someone whose name wouldn't echo through newspapers if things went wrong, someone who could vanish without disturbing the balance of their carefully crafted reputations. That someone was supposed to be you. In times of crisis, the powerful look for someone to blame before they look for solutions. It's not cowardice, it's strategy. Sacrifice is their insurance policy, their safety net, their invisible armor. When disaster looms, they don't risk their own names. They toss forward the nearest soul who can't defend themselves. They justify it with rehearsed speeches and patriotic slogans. They convince themselves, and sometimes the world, that the sacrifice is necessary, noble even. But deep down, they know the truth. They are protecting themselves, not the nation. Their fear is disguised as leadership, and their guilt is buried under layers of protocol. And this is why the room felt colder when they asked for your help. In their eyes, you were the perfect candidate, unconnected, unprotected, unnoticed. They needed someone whose fall wouldn't shake the foundation beneath them, someone who could disappear quietly. Scapegoating is the oldest tool in the political handbook. When things fail, leaders rarely stand under the collapsing roof. They hand someone else the blueprints. They choose the person least likely to fight back, least likely to be remembered, and least likely to threaten the narrative they built. It's not random, it's surgical. They look for cracks, insecurities, isolation, silence. They search for someone who won't make noise when pushed into the darkness. And once chosen, the scapegoat carries the sins of the powerful like a backpack made of lead. The leaders clean their hands while the chosen one suffocates. You realize that being summoned into that private room wasn't an honor. It was a warning. You weren't being invited. You were being selected. Ordinary people are the easiest shields because their stories don't travel far. Their voices don't echo in conference rooms, and their losses aren't televised. Leaders rely on this silence. It is their camouflage. They can hide behind the quiet suffering of those who have no platform. The powerful make mistakes, and they know it. But instead of owning them, they wrap themselves in the innocence of everyday citizens. Using human lives as buffers, they protect their image with the bruises of others, crafting narratives where the wrong people get punished for the right people's mistakes. And this cruel efficiency is why you were invited, not because of wisdom, not because of talent, but because you were invisible enough to carry their fault. Some people vanish from public sight after being blamed, not because they die, but because the system erases them. Their identities are rewritten, their voices muted, their stories buried. Once you carry the guilt of the powerful, you become a ghost walking through a world that forgot your name. They call it protection, but it feels more like exile. You don't get to explain yourself. You don't get to clear your name. You simply disappear behind a curtain woven from secrecy and convenience. Leaders move forward while the scapegoat sinks quietly beneath the narrative. This is why the general's eyes looked hollow. He'd seen too many people never return from the accusations thrown at them. If a scapegoat ever returns, they return changed, hardened, colder, eyes emptied of naivety. The system reshapes them like steel under a hammer. They come back knowing how the world truly works, not by fairness, not by truth, but by power and perception. They don't trust easily anymore. They don't smile the same. Their silence becomes their armor. Their anger becomes their compass. The system doesn't just blame them, it reconstructs them into something unrecognizable. A survivor, but not the same person. This is the fate that the minister was quietly offering you, wrapped in polished words. Watching them speak, you wondered if leaders even remembered what it felt like to be human. Their expressions were rehearsed, their emotions rationed, their decisions calculated. It was as if they had traded their humanity for roles they could no longer step out of. They spoke about people like resources, about lives like expendable tools. Their empathy wasn't gone. It was simply buried under paperwork and expectations. They had become machines programmed to survive scandals rather than confront them. And in their mechanical logic, sacrificing someone like you wasn't cruelty. It was efficiency. There were towns whispered about where scapegoats were sent. Strange names you'd never find on maps. Places where disappeared citizens were tucked away, hidden by the system's silence. These places weren't prisons, but they weren't homes either. They were holding zones for discarded narratives. People who returned from these places carried stories no one dared to retell. Their eyes held memories of deals made in shadows, of promises broken with signatures instead of bullets. These places whispered of the past, of victims who became reminders of everything the powerful wanted forgotten. They were graveyards of truth buried under geographical lies. The emblem of the lion biting its tail wasn't decoration. It was a warning. Power devours itself. The lion symbolized leaders who feed on whatever lies closest to ease their hunger for survival. And the scapegoat? That's the tail, the part sacrificed first. Its design was unsettling because it represented a cycle that never ends. Every time the lion grows weak, it consumes another part of itself, another innocent person, another story rewritten. The system survives by consuming its own citizens. You stared at that emblem and felt its weight like a hand around your throat. In their world, human lives were bargaining chips. A mistake could be erased with a signature. A scandal could be buried with a sacrifice. A leader's downfall could be prevented with someone else's future. That was the currency of the system. People, not money. Leaders traded innocence for stability. They negotiated guilt like business deals. And every decision came at the cost of someone powerless, someone chosen not for what they did, but for how easily they could be removed. It was cruel, but it was the truth most people refused to see. War was the biggest stage for scapegoats. Every miscalculation was attributed to someone lower in rank. Every lost battle was pinned on a name that couldn't defend itself. Soldiers died carrying blame they never deserved, packaged into reports written for the comfort of the powerful. Lives were lost, but what leaders feared most was losing face. So they rewrote battles, repainted failures, and reassigned guilt like it was paperwork. The sacrifice wasn't just physical, it was narrative. Soldiers weren't just fighting enemies, they were fighting the system that claimed to protect them. War didn't just kill bodies, it killed truths. Some leaders grow addicted to control. They stop seeing people as humans with families, dreams, and fears. Instead, they see pawns, placeholders, statistics. Power becomes a craving, a rush, a drug that blinds them to the destruction they leave behind. Once detached from humanity, leaders justify anything. They convince themselves that sacrifices are necessary, that casualties are unavoidable, that victims are simply part of the process. This mindset turns them into something colder than villains, empty vessels running on authority and ambition, and that emptiness is more dangerous than any weapon. But cycles end when someone refuses to play their part, when a scapegoat refuses to bow their head, when an ordinary person speaks the truth louder than the lies wrapped around them. The system doesn't fear weapons. It fears exposure. It fears someone brave enough to reveal how the game is rigged. You realized that your greatest power wasn't physical strength or political influence. It was awareness, knowledge, the ability to turn their scheme inside out. By refusing to become their shield, you became their threat. You transformed from a disposable piece into an unpredictable force. And sometimes, the loudest rebellion is simply refusing to disappear. Power never chooses the loudest or the bravest first. It looks for the isolated ones, the ones without allies, the ones nobody will defend when the storm hits. Being alone makes you visible to predators in ways strength never does. The moment you're separated from the crowd, you become the perfect target. Clean, quiet, disposable. That's the cruel truth no one admits. Isolation isn't a weakness. It's an invitation. Yet there is something strange that happens when power selects the lonely. The fear you once thought would break you becomes a twisted fuel. Every heartbeat grows sharper, every instinct clearer. You start recognizing their intentions faster than they expect. You learn their tactics, their patterns, their desperate need to protect themselves by sacrificing someone else. And for the first time, you see the game for what it really is. Because when power chooses you out of loneliness, it accidentally awakens something dangerous inside you. It teaches you to stand alone without shaking. And once you learn how to do that, you stop being their victim and start becoming their threat. There are rooms in this world where truth doesn't live. It's held hostage. Every sentence is a bargaining chip. Every silence is a weapon. When they lock the door behind you, you feel it instantly. The truth is not welcome here unless it's dressed in a version that benefits them. The air itself feels staged, like the walls are listening, waiting to punish the wrong confession. In these rooms, the powerful don't want honesty. They want obedience. They twist stories, rearrange details, reshape events until reality becomes something flexible, something they control. They expect you to fold under pressure, to give them the version of truth that lets them sleep without guilt. And the more they push, the more you feel the weight of the truth they're trying to suffocate. But if you hold your ground, if you refuse to let your thoughts become their property, then the hostage situation changes. Suddenly, it's them who feel cornered, them who feel exposed, because nothing terrifies liars more than someone who refuses to play along. There's a reason the system goes after the quiet ones. Loud people draw attention, and attention is dangerous to those who rely on hidden motives. The quiet ones, however, those who swallow their words and bury their emotions, are easier to shape. They break silently. They disappear silently. They take the blame silently. Silence is power's favorite accessory. The powerful rely on your quietness to survive. They count on you not questioning the orders, not challenging the decisions, not exposing the truth you witnessed. They want victims who won't fight back, who won't scream when the narrative crushes them. That's why they prefer the soft-spoken, the ones who suffer internally instead of exploding externally. But here's the twist they never anticipate. Quiet people don't stay quiet forever. Pressure doesn't make them scream, it makes them evolve. And when they finally speak, their words hit harder than any shout. Their silence becomes a weapon sharpened by patience and pain. Lies are light. They can't stand on their own without weight beneath them. That weight is usually a person, someone who absorbs the blame, carries the shame, and becomes the foundation for the story the powerful want the world to believe. Every lie ever told had a human back holding it up, whether willingly or not. The sick brilliance of the system is how it chooses whose back the lie will land on. It won't be the wealthy, or the protected, or the well-connected. It will be the nameless one, the one no headline cares to mention. Lies thrive when a truth is buried under someone else's downfall, someone else's reputation, someone else's life. But the system forgets one thing: bodies don't stay buried forever. Eventually, the truth rots through the lie and rises again, uglier and louder. And when it does, it crushes the liars instead of the innocent. There is nothing more unsettling than a leader who smiles at you while sharpening the blade behind their back. Their friendliness is strategic. Their warmth is a costume. They memorize your weaknesses while pretending to admire your strengths. They observe your reactions, replay your words, study the cracks in your armor, all while maintaining the sweetest expression. That smile hides calculations. They are deciding how useful you are, how replaceable you are, and how easily you can be thrown under the bus when their plans collapse. Their kindness is not kindness. It's camouflage, a way to lower your guard long enough for them to push you off the edge. But once you see through that smile, once you recognize the predator behind the politeness, something shifts. You stop mistaking softness for safety. And suddenly, their smile stops being a threat and becomes a weakness. They can't manipulate what they can no longer fool. There's a difference between being invited and being summoned. Invitations come with respect. Summons come with expectations. When the powerful call you into their presence, it's not because they value you. It's because they need something from you. Something you don't know you have yet. You realize this the moment you enter a room and feel the eyes watching you like a tool, not a person. Every word you speak is scanned. Every expression analyzed. You weren't brought here to be heard. You were brought here to be positioned. You're not a guest. You're a piece of the puzzle they're trying to force into place. The moment this truth hits, everything sharpens. You stop searching for approval and start searching for the exits. Because once you understand your role in their story, you gain the power to rewrite it. The most dangerous people aren't the ones with weapons. They're the ones in suits with excuses. They hide behind professionalism, policy, and protocol while throwing innocent lives into the line of fire. They never get their hands dirty. They just point to someone else and call it procedure. Cowards in suits don't confront problems. They redirect them. They don't face consequences. They outsource them. And the system allows it because these cowards dress their actions in polished words and fake dignity. Behind closed doors, however, their voices crack with fear and their plans reek of desperation. But the ironic twist is this. The people they choose as shields often end up becoming the ones who expose them. When someone has nothing left to lose, they stop protecting the system that tried to destroy them. And that's when the cowards finally panic. Silence can be louder than any explosion. When someone who always obeyed stops responding, the powerful feel the shift instantly. They can't measure silence, can't predict it, can't control it. Silence means thinking. Silence means strategy. Silence means rebellion, brewing beneath the surface. The system thrives on noise, orders, commands, instructions, drama. Noise keeps people distracted. Noise keeps people scared. But silence means awareness. It means someone has stopped absorbing the chaos and started analyzing it instead. And that terrifies them, because silence is the first step before a move they never see coming. Being useful feels like an advantage until you realize you're only useful because you are expendable. The wrong people don't value your skill. They value the convenience of using you to solve their problems. The moment your usefulness runs out, so does their loyalty. You're not appreciated. You're consumed. The price you pay for being useful is your peace. You accommodate. You stay late. You carry burdens that aren't yours. And with every favor, they pull you deeper into a role you never asked for. They keep you exhausted so you never realize you're being drained. But there comes a breaking point, and when you finally stop being useful to them, you start being dangerous for yourself, in a good way. Because being free from the wrong people is the first step toward becoming unstoppable for the right reasons. The most ruthless leaders don't destroy connections. They destroy the individuals who might expose them. Burning bridges is too obvious. Burning people leaves no structure behind, no evidence, no traceable path of guilt. They frame it as necessary, strategic, for the greater good. But the truth is simple. People are easier to replace than reputations. You see this in how quickly they turn on those who once supported them. One mistake, one hint of disobedience, one inconvenient truth, and suddenly you find yourself isolated, blamed, erased. The bridge is still standing, but the person who walked it is nowhere to be found. Yet every burned person becomes a spark, and enough sparks can burn down an empire. People who can't say no are magnets for exploitation. The system selects them, like prey picks the calmest animal in the herd. The inability to refuse becomes a trap, a leash, a silent contract signing your willingness to suffer. It begins small, tiny favors, minor sacrifices, but gradually grows into carrying burdens far beyond your role. The system recognizes your hesitation faster than you do. It uses guilt, obligation, and false promises to keep you compliant. They say you're trustworthy, reliable, important, but those words are just polished chains. Your kindness becomes the weapon used against you. But the moment you finally say no, even once, everything changes. The system panics. They don't know how to control someone who wakes up. That single refusal becomes your first act of power. Blame isn't just thrown, it's performed. A ritual, a ceremony, the powerful conduct to cleanse themselves of responsibility. They speak with dramatic pauses, sigh heavily, and present a perfectly crafted story pointing at someone else. They pretend it's painful for them, but the truth is, this ritual is their survival strategy. The ceremony is predictable. First denial, then justification, then the dramatic reveal of the scapegoat. They dress it in professionalism. But beneath the surface, it's a performance designed to protect their image. They aren't looking for truth. They're crafting a story the world can digest easily. But rituals lose their power when people stop believing in them. And when the illusion cracks, blame turns back toward the one who orchestrated it. There comes a moment when the powerful stop seeing you as a human being and start seeing you as a narrative device. You are no longer you. You're a symbol, an example, a character in the script they're writing. They twist your actions, exaggerate your flaws, erase your intentions, and present a version of you that serves their agenda. You lose control of how the world sees you. Your name becomes a headline. Your silence becomes guilt. Your fear becomes evidence. The story they build wraps around you like a cage, suffocating your identity. It's not that they misunderstand you. They reshape you. But stories can be rewritten. And the moment you reclaim your voice, the whole script collapses. Once they've drained you, blamed you, or used you, the system acts like you were never there. They archive your contributions, delete your influence, and erase your presence from every room you once illuminated. This is the final insult. They not only discard you, they pretend you were irrelevant all along. Your absence becomes their convenience. They fill your space with someone else, someone fresh, someone unaware of how disposable they are. The cycle continues, like you were just another shadow passing through. But the truth is, the system remembers everything. It just hopes you don't. The aftermath becomes your awakening, because being forgotten by them frees you to remember who you truly are. Power loves breaking people because broken people don't fight back. They become predictable, easy to manipulate, easy to silence. But power underestimates one thing. Some broken people rebuild themselves into something far stronger than before. People who survive destruction come back with sharper instincts, thicker skin, and a clarity the untouched will never know. When someone cracks and rises again, they no longer fear consequences. They've already lived through the worst. That scares the system. It terrifies the leaders who rely on fear to control others. The unbroken are obedient, but the rebuilt, they're unstoppable. Because nothing is more dangerous than a person who was meant to be destroyed, but refused to stay down.